Welcome to Telltale Books. I'm continuing my Isaac Asimov series in this video. His fifth published short story is Ring Around the Sun. And reading it in the early Asimov, I believe this was actually the second story that he wrote after the Calliston Menace, but it wasn't published until March of 1940. It had gotten rejected at least once and then was published in Future Fiction magazine in their March 1940 issue, which was the second issue of Future Fiction, which would later become Future Science Fiction and continue into the 1950s. Ring Around the Sun is about Jimmy and Roy, who are crack pilots for the, I forget the exact name of it. They're the Interplanetary Postal Service. And their boss wants to cut down time on making the run to Venus. Because ordinarily, the service would wait until Venus is on the same side of the sun as the Earth and then send a spaceship. Their boss wants to be able to send a ship over at any time. So they develop a special field that can be projected around the outside of the ship, which will repel all the sun's heat so that they can fly close to the sun, cutting over to Venus on the other side of the sun. And the boss, who is, I forget his real name. His nickname is Sourpuss. He tricks both Jimmy and Roy into volunteering for the first mission to test this thing out, see how it works. So they do it, and Sourpuss hands them both a paper giving them directions on what to do, but they're crack pilots, so, and somebody gives them a talk, so they don't bother reading the paper. They don't need to, right? So as they're getting dangerously close to the sun, the field kicks in, and within a day, the heat has dropped almost 50 degrees inside the ship. And it wasn't supposed to drop that fast. And the temperature continues to drop, and they calculate that by the time they're midway, it's going to be well below freezing. By the time they make it to where the field will shut off again, it's going to be like 30 or 40 below zero. They realize this at a point where there's no return. They can't get out. They have to continue on. I won't spoil the ending, but it's funny. And humor is a very difficult thing to do. It's a very difficult thing to do and make a story that can really become great. Usually it's, it's fun, but now it's done and you move on. And usually a very short story like this. So this story actually does a really good job, first of all, at building characters that are caricatures, which is appropriate for a comedy. And second of all, at making the story fairly funny. Okay, it is humorous. It is. I was laughing. It was good, and it's enjoyable on that level. This is a really good story. The science is a little dated, but it's 1940. Okay, it's almost 100 years old. Science has marched on. But the story itself and the jokes are not so dated. They are fairly funny. You know, if you like Abbott and Costello, if you like Martin and Lewis movies, if you like that kind of humor, Three Stooges is going a little too far, I think. But if you like that kind of ensemble humor, this story pulls it off pretty well. So I would recommend it. I don't think this reaches the level of being a great story. It's very good, but it's not great. It's not a top tail. But it's still a good story. And so I would encourage you to seek it out and read it. You can, of course, find Future Fiction as a PDF online for free. You can find a copy of the early Asimov in hardcover like this, or there's paperbacks. Pretty plentiful. You can find them. I don't think it's currently in print. There might be an Asimov collection like Nightfall that's currently in print somewhere that might have that story, but I'm not sure. At any rate, search or use sources. The early Asimov has the story, and you can read it there if you want to read it in a physical book. So that was Asimov's number 5. Number 6 will be actually the first of his published works that got written was The Calliston Menace. So it's the very first book in this book. Very first story in that book. But again, it wasn't published right away. It wasn't published until April of 1940. It got published in Astonishing by Isaac Asimov's friend Frederick Pohl. And that then will be my next Asimov video review. I hope you'll join me for that. Till then, like us, subscribe to us, leave comments. Have you read Ring Around the Sun? What do you think? Have you read any of Asimov's early works? What do you think of them? Leave your comments and come on back for more. I'm going to be continuing through Asimov. He's got a long bibliography. I'm going to keep going till I'm done. So I'll see you in the next one.